saving their lives. They want immunity. They're calling by the thousands. Combat operations continue at this time in full force, and they will continue until
on paper,
all of
Iran commands one of the largest militaries in the Middle East, a force that reportedly includes close to 1 million personnel when counting the regular army and the Revolutionary Guard. For decades, that massive structure was presented to the world as an unstoppable shield, protecting the Iranian regime and its regional ambitions. But history has shown something important about armies. When the command structure, the brain of the system, collapses, even the largest military can quickly lose its ability to function. And that is exactly the situation analysts believe Iran may now be facing. In the aftermath of an intense wave of airstrikes carried out by Israel and supported by the United States, Iran's military leadership reportedly suffered devastating losses. Within a very short period of time, a large number of senior commanders and strategic planners were removed from the battlefield. The result was immediate chaos across multiple military installations. According to reports circulating in regional media, several Iranian bases entered emergency lockdown, while many officers suddenly disappeared from their command posts. Some were reportedly killed during targeted strikes. Others are believed to have gone into hiding. And without leadership, the structure that normally keeps a military organized began to fracture. Soldiers stationed across different regions of the country reportedly found themselves in a strange and dangerous situation. They were still armed. They were still stationed at military bases. But the orders stopped coming. With communication lines disrupted and commanders missing, units were left waiting for instructions that never arrived. In any army, discipline depends on a clear chain of command. When that chain breaks, confusion spreads rapidly. Some soldiers reportedly abandoned their barracks. Others sought safety away from military facilities that had become targets. There were even accounts suggesting that some troops began taking shelter in civilian buildings. The situation, according to multiple observers, created an atmosphere of fear and uncertainty inside the ranks. For ordinary soldiers, the war suddenly looked very different. Instead of clear objectives and leadership, many were left asking a simple question: who is actually in charge? This breakdown did not happen slowly. It unfolded within days. In fact, analysts point to a critical window of roughly 72 hours, during which a series of precision strikes targeted Iran's military leadership. During that period, a number of key figures within the defense establishment were reportedly eliminated. Among those affected were senior commanders connected to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, strategic planners, and high-ranking officers responsible for coordinating military operations. When multiple leaders disappear at once, the ripple effect can be enormous. Communication networks collapse. Decision-making slows down. And entire units can become isolated. For the hundreds of thousands of soldiers who depend on that command structure, the consequences are immediate. Without direction, a military begins to lose the cohesion that holds it together. And when cohesion disappears, discipline quickly follows. Reports emerging from inside Iran described situations where soldiers were left guarding facilities without knowing what they were protecting or why. Others reportedly slept outside bases to avoid becoming targets. Some officers allegedly abandoned their positions entirely. Whether every detail of these accounts is accurate or not, the larger picture they paint is one of serious instability inside the military system. But the story does not end with internal chaos. The consequences extend far beyond Iran's borders. For years, Iran built a powerful regional network known by many analysts as the axis of resistance. Through this network, Tehran maintained influence across multiple countries in the Middle East. Groups operating in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, and Yemen relied heavily on Iranian funding, weapons, and strategic guidance. Much of that coordination was handled by elite units connected to the Revolutionary Guard's Quds Force. These officers acted as advisors, planners, and liaisons between Iran and its regional partners. But when leadership inside Iran becomes unstable, the entire network begins to feel the shockwaves. One of the first places where these effects were noticed was Lebanon. For decades, Hezbollah maintained close operational ties with Iranian commanders. Iranian advisors played a significant role in training, planning operations, and coordinating strategy. But recent reports suggested that several Iranian officers stationed abroad suddenly left their positions. Some sources claim they feared becoming targets in the escalating conflict. If those reports are correct, it could signal a temporary disruption in the communication channels that connect Iran to its allies. The second major ripple effect appears to be unfolding across the Gulf region. For years, countries such as Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates viewed Iran's military power as one of the primary threats to regional stability. But if Iran's armed forces are struggling with internal disorganization, the balance of power could begin shifting. Regional governments are watching developments closely. A weakened Iranian military could encourage rival powers to adopt more assertive policies. At the same time, uncertainty about Iran's next move keeps tensions extremely high. The third and perhaps most unpredictable consequence is taking place inside Iran itself. For decades, the Iranian leadership promoted a powerful narrative to its population. That narrative claimed the country's military forces were capable of defending the nation against any foreign threat. But when reports begin circulating about missing commanders, abandoned bases, and soldiers seeking shelter away from military facilities, that narrative becomes harder to sustain. Public perception can change quickly during moments of crisis. When people begin questioning the strength of the institutions that govern them, the psychological impact can be enormous. Fear, which once maintained order, may begin to fade. And when fear disappears, political systems often face their greatest tests. Another critical element of this conflict involves psychological warfare. Modern wars are not fought only with missiles and aircraft. They are also fought in the minds of soldiers and civilians. During the early phase of the conflict, messages reportedly circulated encouraging Iranian troops to surrender rather than continue fighting. These messages were designed to exploit the uncertainty created by the loss of leadership. Imagine being a soldier stationed at a base under attack. Communication with headquarters has collapsed. Your commanders are gone. And at the same time, you are receiving messages promising safety if you lay down your weapons. That kind of psychological pressure can have a powerful effect on morale. Military history is full of examples where armies collapsed not because every soldier was defeated on the battlefield, but because confidence in leadership disappeared. Meanwhile, the air campaign itself continued to intensify. Reports described waves of fighter jets striking strategic targets across multiple regions. Underground facilities believed to house command centers and military infrastructure were also targeted. In one particularly dramatic operation, a heavily fortified underground complex believed to be used by senior leadership was reportedly destroyed using precision-guided munitions. Facilities that were once considered nearly impossible to penetrate were suddenly vulnerable. And when the locations believed to be safest are destroyed, the psychological impact on soldiers can be devastating. At that point, many begin to question whether any position is truly secure. This combination of military pressure and psychological warfare created a situation where the Iranian armed forces faced both physical and mental challenges simultaneously. Infrastructure was under attack. Leadership networks were disrupted. And morale inside the ranks appeared to be weakening. For analysts studying the conflict, the bigger question now is what happens next. Will Iran manage to reorganize its military command and restore stability? Or will the disruption continue spreading through the system? The answer could reshape the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East. Because if Iran's military structure remains unstable, the entire regional balance of power could shift dramatically. One thing is certain. Wars are not decided only by the number of soldiers or weapons a country possesses. They are decided by organization, leadership, and the ability to adapt under pressure. And when the leadership structure of a military collapses, even the largest army can suddenly find itself struggling to function. The coming weeks will reveal whether Iran can rebuild that structure, or whether this moment will mark the beginning of a much deeper transformation across the region. Until then, the world is watching closely, because the events unfolding now may shape the future of Middle Eastern geopolitics for years to come.